Ray and I are small business owners who help other people become small business owners. We use the business model of franchising to do that. Ray, what do you love about franchising?
I love franchising because it allows people to achieve their dreams, their goals, and to control their risk, to leverage the information, knowledge, financial resources to achieve success.
Yeah. And I love franchising because it's not starting a business. What? No, I learned that a long time ago. My first mentor in the franchise industry taught me that franchising is not starting a business, it's duplicating a business someone else has started. And that was a real epiphany for me at the time. And so that's what Ray and I do as franchise consultants. We help people investigate franchising. And so we're glad that you're here today. Thank you very, very much. Please feel free to turn off your cameras. They don't have to be on. Please tell us in the chat where you are today around the planet. We are US-based franchise consultants. So if you've joined us from another part of the globe, you'll need to start your franchise in the United States. Okay, that's where we work. And here's what you can expect today on Franchise Feedback Live. Okay, we're going to talk specifically today about all of the frequently asked questions that we've gotten over the last 20 years. We went back through our records and we didn't make these up. We actually looked at what people have asked us. And we did some tallies and we came up with the top 5 today. We're also going to give you some resources. The first resource we'd like to give you is our learning center. That's at hireyourbestboss.com. hireyourbestboss.com. Ray, when somebody gets to hireyourbestboss.com, what are they going to find there?
They're going to find resources, things like videos, specifically videos where we're answering questions, where take a couple minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, and go a little deeper on some of the issues that people have or learning experiences so that they can kind of go down the road and build their education base.
Ray, is there any cost for Hire Your Best Boss?
No cost. It's time. You invest time. So it's learning. This is a learning community. And what that means is there's all kinds of different resources that you use at your leisure. So you can learn about what your options are. You can do boundary scanning. It's about putting things at your fingertips through we call it the informed decision process, but it's really about boundary scanning and learning your options and learning about you and your skill sets. It's of course, I think it's tremendous.
It is tremendous. And there's another opportunity to make a point here. Our services are at no cost, right? For the last 20 years, we've never charged anybody for our services because we're compensated like executive recruiters or commercial real estate brokers in the seller pays model. So you'll never send us a dime. You'll never get an invoice for our services. Our currency, as Ray said, is time. So you'll also find a resource on Hire Your Best Boss to schedule a franchise exploration call with us. So if you want to get on and talk, if you have a question that doesn't get answered today, then yeah, book a call with us. We do these all day long. We do these all week long. We talk to people all across the country. And where do we have some people from today, Ray? Has anybody weighed in with their location yet? We want to welcome you.
Couple different screens here. I see from the DMV, John Little from the DMV, Washington, D.C. John, that's where I'm from. Way to go. All right.
Yeah. Go Commanders.
There, go Commanders. And let's not, and the Nationals are about to get good. Let's see. I see somebody from Chicagoland. Hey, Jeff. Yeah. So we've got looks like
Thanks
New
everybody
Hampshire.
for joining us. Would you like financing and funding resources? Ray and I have 4 companies we've worked with for over 15 years each that can help you put the financial package together to help fund and finance a franchise investment after your investigation. So if you'd like that, please book a call with us. We'll get you introduced there. So Ray, if you want to get started, let's explain what we've done, and then let's dive into our mythical mailbag. We went back over the last 2 decades, and what was the most asked, the number one FAQ that we came up with?
Well, first of all, allow me my glasses so I can see, because these 20, 30 years in franchising, that has changed.
Roger that.
So let's see. Number one question. I guess the number one question that I see most often here early in the calls is franchising risky? Is it risky?
Yes. Is franchising risk? You bet franchising is risky, because small business startup, small business ownership is risky. So yes, is there risk involved? You bet there's risk involved. Financial risk, lifestyle risk. Yes, but what we teach when you work with us is an informed decision process. And so we want to take what your perceptions are about business ownership, about particular businesses, and turn that perception into knowledge using an informed decision process. Ray, what is an informed decision process? Let's go a little bit deeper into that, because it answers the question, how do you mitigate risk?
How do you mitigate risk? How do you understand risk?
How
An
do you
informed,
understand it?
an informed decision process is a step-by-step process to understand and evaluate uh, anything. In this case, it's our informed decision process is about business ownership. And it takes into account, you need to learn about a business, understand the business, understand the risks involved. It also takes the element out of getting sold, right? We all have the fear, right, of getting sold. If anyone's ever walked into a car dealership and someone with, commission breath ran up to you, you know what I'm talking about. The informed decision process is a step-by-step process that you can go through to learn. So it's really a learning process. I remember I was answering this question the other day from Amanda, and Amanda was asking about, is it risky to do a business or a franchise? And my first part of the answer was, yeah, it's risky. Just like it's risky to cross the street, just like it's risky not to own it. Like there's risk involved. So you need to understand the risk, right? Understand what the risks are, understand what you're trying to do. If you want to cross the street, you're going to take the risk, or you're going to evaluate the risk and understand the risk. In the business process, in the franchising process, in this point, it's about learning everything you can about the business. I call it connecting the dots. But you need to have a process. It's kind of, you don't want to do willy-nilly. Like if you're just boy, I like cupcakes, therefore I'm going to get a cupcake franchise because I like cupcakes. Don't like that as much. That is risky because you're not doing the homework. Do the homework, connect the dots, and then understand who you are, what your skills are, taking that informed decision so that you can then understand and make it, quite honestly, controlling risk, mitigating risk, understanding the risk. Does that make sense, Tara?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And Ray and I have learned over the years that beyond that question, the underlying concern is, I don't want to gamble my life savings.
Yeah.
And we don't want you to gamble your life savings. The informed decision process is designed to help you turn over every stone, ask every question, look in every corner, talk to a lot of franchisees, talk to franchisors, understand the process. And that's really what we do, is we guide you step by step through that process. We don't want you to gamble. It should not be a gamble. It should be an informed investment decision where you know what you're getting into. And so that's what we do. And anything as our work with you, anything you want to add to that, Ray?
Yeah, but one last thing, Tara, to expound upon what you just said is it's evaluating the risk, understanding the risk. So, Terry, you're famous for saying success leaves clues, right?
Success leaves clues.
You say
Absolutely.
that all the time. Well, risk leaves clues too.
Failure leaves clues.
Failure leaves clues. So when someone asks me about whether it's risky, as I was telling Amanda the other day, understand and look for some of the clues. She brought up to me a business that deals with a certain aspect of men's health. And she'd read, they 600 units in 14, 16 months, and all these, they're growing, but not a whole lot opened. And she goes, "Is that risky?" And I was like, "Well, 614 months and not a whole bunch opened. There's risk there, right? Understand what the risks are. Uh, do they have the capacity to open them? Do they have, there's clues there to look at and to understand. And I'm not saying you don't do a business like that, but you need to understand it. And those kind of clues, those risk profiles come out. So um, my last word on this, Tara, would be that the risk is something that it's always there, but there's a risk for not doing anything as well, right?
Mhm.
There's a risk for that. So you need to first of all identify the risk, evaluate the risk, and then be able through the informed decision process to control, mitigate the risk, and or leave the risk alone. Sometimes it tells you to say, "Hey, not that one."
Exactly. And this rolls right into our next frequently asked question to do with how to talk with a spouse. So, to dovetail off of what you just said, many times, almost always, you and your spouse will have different levels of risk that you're comfortable with. It would be highly normal for that to happen and very unusual if you both have the same tolerance for risk. And so the next FAQ is how will owning a franchise impact my lifestyle and my family, right? And how do I talk with my husband or my wife about this? My quick answer to that, Ray, is early and often,
Right.
right? Learned a long time ago, franchising something you do with a spouse, not to a spouse, right?
Yep.
And so franchising should impact your lifestyle in a positive way, right? You should gain many, many things from small business ownership. You want to list off some of those positives, Ray?
Oh, sure. Time with control of time with family, financial resources, equity, living the life that you've dreamed of. I could go on and on.
I'm gonna jump in and ask you a specific question. You're a small business owner. Did you miss any of your boys' sports events?
Terry, that the thing I'm most proud of is I did not miss events.
You
I
did not.
I did not miss events. If at the end of my days, I think my kids are going to be able to say at least one good thing about me is like I showed up.
And we hear that a lot of time from the people we work with. They want to spend more time with family. They don't mind coming home from a soccer game and doing a couple hours paperwork in the evening. As long as they're controlling, when they leave for that game, they get to see the whole game. Maybe they get to coach, for the
Yeah,
first time in their careers. You should have a positive impact on both your lifestyle and your family. And you should find something that you really enjoy doing,
yeah.
right? Can you enjoy being a small business owner?
Yeah, you can absolutely enjoy being a small business owner. You can share it with your family. I always thought our dining room table was a bit of a Shark Tank. As my boys grew up, now they're young men and grown up in college and grad school, but there was a time when they were very young, and we were talking about, just because you talk about these kind of things at the dining room table. And being a business owner, my wife's a business owner. We have kids who have been thinking that way. And I used to be amazed when they were listening to Shark Tank, or in Canada, was it the Dragon's Den? And they would even as young kids, they were asking very insightful questions. And that was, bursting with pride, as you can tell I was. That was something that was very, very important. And um, go into those questions, because it's really two questions. Often the first part of that question, which is like, um, how do you put it? Like, is how's this going to affect my family? That often comes from an area of fear. when people ask
Mhm.
that question, right? It's fear and anxiety. Like, am I not gonna have any time with my family? Am I gonna have a bad financial result? Like, it comes from a position of fear. And I want you to know that you need to do the homework and you need to understand, but instead of being from a position of fear, make it a position of knowledge.
Mhm.
And you can also get what you want. I was able to coach sports for over 15 years for my kids. I don't, I thought it was positive. We'll see.
You didn't say attend, you said coach.
I coached
You were
for
on the sidelines.
I was on the sidelines, and it was a lot of fun. And then as they progressed up in sports and they were playing at the high school and collegiate level, it was great to go and watch and see how that goes. But you can get the financial, the equity, the control. For me, control was always very big. I know it was big for you. So it doesn't have to be from a position of fear. You need to answer those questions from a position of knowledge. And the second part about the do I tell the spouse? Often people will come and say, like, do I have to tell the spouse? And I'm like, I'm not Dr. Phil. However, you need to discuss it, right? At least that's how it works in my house and a very successful business folks I know. That's how it works. It doesn't mean that one doesn't take the lead in the beginning, but at some point, everybody needs to be involved, even if it's going to be one or the other's business. They need to know about it. They need to understand, and it's a resource. Don't give up on a resource. You're getting another set of eyes. You're getting someone
Exactly.
who can come in and sit on the same side of the table. I always tell people, don't sell your spouse. That's not have them come and learn with you. Maybe you got really interested in a business. Having another set of eyes to come in and work with you can be valuable. Again, I'm not Dr. Phil, so I'll
I had a
stop there.
gentleman ask me that question last week. And, do I need to tell my spouse? And I said, of course you do. And I said, here, let me give you some advice, Frank. I said, just go to your bedroom and get your blanket and pillow and move it out to the garage. Okay. Because just get ahead of it, because that's where you're going to be if you don't tell your spouse. We had a good laugh over it. He said, yeah, okay, I understand. But I also have a suggestion, right? A good way to introduce what Ray and I do to your spouse is show them hireyourbestboss.com.
Oh, yeah.
Let them watch, a couple 3 or 4 minute videos, because we demonstrate on there the service that we provide. We answer questions. And I talk to spouses all the time that say, I went to your website and I watched, a ton of videos, right? I really got a sense of what it is that you do, because let's face it, Ray, no one has ever heard of a franchise consultant before, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're looking for a business, and maybe you've worked with a franchise company or applied for information or something. When we show up, nobody ever says, oh yeah, I've worked with 34 franchise. No, it's just not the case. So we have to explain and demonstrate what it is we do, and that's a great way to introduce your spouse to the process.
It absolutely is. Terry, the other thing is that many people have had experiences with coaches or consultants that wasn't great. It's not the same. It's not the same process with
Not the
everyone
same.
that you go through it. I mean, listen, you can have a, a Yugo going back 1,000 years is a car, and a Lexus is a car. They're very different. Um, if you think it would help your spouse to have a call with us, we even without you do it. We'd love to have that call. Most of the time, people who don't want to have a call, they just want to know that you're not, you're not blowing it. Show them the process. Understand they're always welcome on any call. Um,
Always welcome.
you do things, our philosophy is you do things with people, not to them, so they understand. That's always been our philosophy. This is a very different process, and you're in charge of the process. And that's a big difference. Not everybody's the same. As soon as you get a whiff of a coach or consultant who's trying to sell you, who's trying, run, don't walk to the door. Really do it. And I don't think anyone I've ever worked with or you've worked with would think that, but if they did, they should run or walk to the door too.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Hey, the next FAQ that we dug out of our research was, what does it cost?
Can I answer that first?
Yeah, be my guest.
Great. Um, People are probably expecting a range of money, and we can give you that if you want. But let me tell you what it really costs. All right. It costs time, it costs effort, right? Time, effort, it costs skills. You got to give a little bit of you into it. So that doesn't mean it's going to be 100 hours a week. It doesn't mean it's going to be 5 hours a week. That all those things are variables. You know, it's almost like a matrix you can build, but it's going to take some time. It's going to take some money. It's going to take some effort and skill. It is going to take that. So you want to get these things in alignment. So I'm passionate about this. I answer this question a lot. Some people just want to have an answer. You know, like I want an answer of $50,127.13. You know, for some businesses, that's right. And if you want a hotel, you need a whole heck of a lot more. So it runs the gamut. People will tell you there's 3 to 4 thousand different franchises out there. There's 3 to 4 thousand different entry points if you're just looking at money. But there's also different entry points in time, effort, skill. So take it all into account. It's not just a one-off answer. So I'll get off the high horse here. Terry, what's your answer?
It's just such a great answer that you gave. And the real question is, what is small business ownership about? I remember many years ago, I was reading a marketing book. I even remember who wrote it, a Harvard professor named Theodore Levitt. And, he said, a business exists to create a customer. And I've never forgot that definition of a business. And so when you start a franchise, you're going to talk to franchise companies who have figured out how to create a customer. And they will show you systems for customer acquisition and systems that they will train you on and systems to support you so that you can go out and get your own customers. And that's where the freedom comes from. You can build your customer base as quickly or as slowly as you want. You can build it to the size that you want. You can choose not to do business with particular people if there are customers you don't want to service or sell your product to. And so it's all about the customer. That's where everything revolves around in a small business. And that's what gives you your tax benefits. That's what gives you your lifestyle freedom. That's what gives you the opportunity to hire the people that you want as employees and work with people that fit your culture, the customer. That makes sense, Ray?
Perfect sense.
Yeah. So that's what it costs. And we do have an entire video segment right on the homepage of Hire Your Best Boss that talks about the costs and
Yep.
the ranges and how to identify the known costs
And
and the
unknown
unknown
customers.
costs.
Yep.
And so we won't duplicate that here today. You can go after the call and watch that. That's where I would suggest you head over and then book a call with us. If you want to know, what does Chick-fil-A cost? Or what does Crumble Cookie cost? Or what do franchises in your portfolio cost? Yeah, grab a franchise exploration call and we'll be happy to talk with you one-on-one about that.
Yeah.
Great.
Sometimes people have a idea of what a business costs. I'm not just talking money either now, time, things like that, that when they call and ask, I had someone recently that was loving a business that they heard was great, right? Everything was great about the business. Um, but they thought that they would run it in an executive model and have management in place, et cetera, et cetera. And that's not the model. The franchise actually requires, I think they require like 45 hours, physical hours, where the named owner needs to be like at 48 weeks a year. Like it's incredible, whatever the exact terminology of what they have, their requirements. And it's not the perception. And a
That's
quick
right.
FEC call, a quick call with Terry or myself, we could answer that questions. I see on these couple screens we have on the side here, I see a lot of friends' names here who would call about that. So, one, Jeff, I've worked for years and years. We've chatted going through stuff. We've gone through some of these things and I get a quick call. Sometimes it just is a phone call back or a text, and love those. I know you do too, Terry. Love to have these kind of chats. First of all, it's kind of fun, right? We're talking bit. This is
Yeah.
what we like to do.
I got a
So
call yesterday from a gentleman in Austin, Texas. I worked with him probably 18 months ago, and he said, "Do you remember me?" I said, "Of course I remember you. How's your son, John?" And he's like, "Oh my goodness, you do remember." And well, we have a common bond there. And so, yeah, we had a delightful call, and he said, "What do you have? I have this much money to invest. What do you have?" And I said, "Well, let's see. Is your strategy the same?" And we talked about that. But yeah, it was a delightful call, and we're always meeting new people. And honestly, it's part of what we love about this business.
timing is timing, right? So that's always a big thing with the folks. So as you go through and you have these quick questions, that's what we're here for. We love doing the frequently asked questions like we do this, but sometimes it's specific. I'm in Chicago and I want to know about this. I'm, your friend in Austin, there, and sometimes your strategy changes. I thought I was going to be full time. I'm now more of an executive model or an investor model. By the way, shameless plug, there is a video about all the different models, and you can go look at that. So, what other questions? We're getting
Can I
through
keep my job? Right? You knew that one was coming up. Can I keep my job and
yeah.
still own a franchise? Right? We probably hear this 3 or 4 times a week. What a great question. What's the answer, Ray? Can you? You keep your
The
job and own a franchise?
the answer is you can. That's a model. You can, and there's a few other questions we need to ask. Like, do you want something that you're going to transition over? Do you want something that you just are building income streams and you're diversifying and building? So we'd have a few other questions, but the answer is yes. Now you need to then figure out how much time you have. Um, you need to figure out what your skills and aptitudes are. Are you a good manager? Can you delegate? These are kind of questions we dig into. You would need to find a business that would work well in that model in your area, in your, the financial. We don't want you betting the ranch, right? So you got to find the right investment level as well. So the answer is yes, it certainly can, but you need to dig in. There are businesses that take very little time with the right manager. And again, the right manager is important, the right person to manage the day-to-day part of the business. The other aspect, there's some that take a lot more time. I've had people who've gotten businesses and they're adding 20, 25 hours a week for the first year or two. But that was a decision to be made, and they made that decision. And then as time goes on, they've gone lower. On the flip side, you have people who spend very little time. But you got to find the right business. You got to find the right people, and you have to be honest with yourself about who you are, what your skill, what you are bringing to the table, not just what the franchise is bringing to the table.
Yeah, and the underlying fear around that is I don't want to work 100 hours a week as a business owner, right? Uncle Randy and Aunt Sally opened a pizza shop many years ago, and they were always there, right? They were there 19 hours a day, 6.5 days a week. I don't want to work 100 hours.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's how you turn that perception into knowledge. It's through the validation portion of the informed decision process. Validation is when you're talking to the franchise company, we teach you how to get on the phone with the franchisees, the owners around the country, in Austin, in Kansas City, in Seattle, in Fort Lauderdale, and you talk to them about their life, and you talk to them about the franchisor and how the franchisor supports them, and you talk to them about what their customers are like. We teach you how to get on the phone and make these calls. And many of the franchise companies will host live calls where you can join in with a single franchisee on there. They'll record these calls and send them to you. We encourage you to do all of that, but mostly we encourage you to get on the phone one-on-one with a person running the business you're interested in and ask them all your questions, right? And someone did that for them when they were investigating. And so people freely do this. They give back, they pay it forward because someone helped them in the process. And it's just a beautiful thing when that happens.
Yeah. It's incredibly important. And you'll run across with all these different franchise businesses out there. There are some that aren't as forthcoming or open with their franchisees to have them communicate with you. That's That's a factor, and you need to deal
It
with
is.
that. And have I ever worked with somebody who eliminated a business because they couldn't talk one-on-one with the franchisee? Yep. It's happened, and that's fine. And I've had people who were able to kind of work their way around it. You need to be able to talk to people to make an informed decision, right? It's a trust and verify process. I trust what I'm hearing and I verify it. And then, averages are great, Terry, but the other thing you need to do is to break down and say, okay, unless you're completely average, you need to figure out what people like you with your skill sets, how they would do. And you got to be honest with yourself. If you're average, you need to look at that. My people, I'll brag about them. My people tend to be very strong, right? They're way above average. They're the kind of top top 10% type folks, and that's great. But you really need to dig and find people like you, because if people like you are below average in a system, then looking at the average information, not just numbers, but time spent and everything else. If you want to make sure, like, if you're below average, then probably not the system for you. If you're above average, or if you're like the better people in a system, I want to see how much time they're spending. I want to see what good looks like. I want to know what kind of return they're getting. And you don't get that in my experience, you don't really get that as much on a group call. That needs to be something that you ask for a little time. And my experience in my almost 30 years doing this is that when you talk to another business owner, a franchisee of a system, and they get to know you for a couple minutes, they'll spend the time with you. You're very appreciative of it, but they'll invest the time with you. And quite honestly, I think it's good for them, because they only want good people in their system. So they want people who are going to be really good. So they want to take the time, because if you come in the system and do very well, that helps the system.
Exactly. What can you ask on a validation call? Anything, right? Anything you want, as long as you develop rapport, and let them know you're a qualified candidate, you've been through the franchisor's education. You'll be surprised where these calls go. And then if you join that system, you'll be stunned where the relationships go, right? The friendships that you build,
The mentors,
the weddings and the college graduations and the high school events that you attend with other franchisees across the country. It's your secondary support system. And it's unlike any other support system out there.
Hey, Terry, let's give people a secret. Okay, here's a secret you get from you're an insider and you're on this call. A secret I have with my folks when they're doing their investigation and they're going through the process, the informed decision process, and they're talking to franchisees, is we always talk about who you're talking to. I don't need to know, but they need to know. And they keep a track, a list of these folks, and these people become their mentors, their coaches. Bill in Austin, Texas was the best at marketing. So when I have marketing questions, yes, you have the corporate support. I know Bill. Bill can help me, right? I can talk to Bill. Lisa was terrific on keeping the labor costs down. I need to talk to Lisa about what are her best practices. How does she implement the proven system to be the best at that? You have your own best practices sheet from your investigation. There's my insider secret. It's your golden nugget for the day, everybody.
What a great secret. And it leads us into our last FAQ. Ray, how can I ensure my franchise is successful? Strong language, right? Ensure, guarantee, but there's a generalized answer to that question.
There's a generalized answer. First of all, do the homework and make an informed decision.
That's the first. Do the homework.
I mean, if you do the homework and you get the right business for your skill sets that helps you, if you get the right vehicle that you can drive, that you can take to achieve your goals, you're in a much better position to be successful. There are no guarantees, but you put yourself in that position to be successful. Then be the best student, right? Before you go to class, be the best student. You catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar, right? So work with, what I mean by that is be nice, talk to everybody, you've got your great system of cohorts of other franchisees. Utilize, don't join a franchise system and then don't talk to the franchisor. Use their system, right? I mean, I'm surprised. I don't want to be a bother to people. I'm like, hey, listen, be a bother. It's not a bother, but be a bother. Call them. Use the resources, the training, the experience. You want to be successful. You're trying to control risk. You're thinking about a franchise because of all these things. Be the best student. Be actively engaged. Even if you're an executive owner and you're spending X amount of hours, not full time, you can still be engaged. You can still be the best owner. You can still be the best student, right? So
Here's one of my secrets, Ray. I get a secret in here before we wrap up. Look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, what type of student will you be? If you invest in this franchise, is your goal to be an A student, or is your goal to be a C student? Or, what type of student will you be? It baffled me for years, right? Same classroom, same textbook, same test, same professor, and some kids got different grades than others. Some got A's and some got D's. How can that be? And the answer is some were better students. So look yourself in the mirror at the point of decision and say, what type of student am I willing to be? Will I put that franchisor's operation manual under my pillow for 6 months and learn everything about those systems? Or do I expect the franchise company to come in and build my business for me? That's not going to happen, right? That's the work of a D student. Decide, do you want to be in the top 20% or do you want to be in the bottom 20%? And if it's the bottom 20%, we got to step back and go, wait a minute. And if it's the top 20%, we will teach you how to get there. We have a book that we give our candidates at the end of the process, that lays out all the steps to get to the top 20% of anybody's franchise system. And it comes from being a great student.
Always being a great student. So that's great. I see a question, Terry.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Are you seeing an increase in virtual or non-brick and mortar franchises?
Yes, particularly service-based franchises that are non-brick and mortar. We are seeing an increase there. Virtual meaning I don't have to be in my business. I can work on my business. Yes. What do you interpret virtual to mean there, Ray?
Well, part of the non-brick and mortar, yes. I think virtual. I think a lot of people are saying, "Hey, can I have an office space or a home office space?"
Oh, yeah.
So the answer, that's how I'm taking it. But the answer is yes, very much so. We're seeing an increase. We were talking about that this morning, Terry.
We were.
So just literally having that conversation. Incredible growth in those kind of businesses. Part of it is also people want to run their business that way. I guess the last few years has changed things. But if you can work out of home, great. If you can work out of a virtual office, great. I think there's a certain amount of people that really like retail, and there's a place of a retail or a brick and mortar, not just retail, but a brick and mortar.
Mm-hmm.
There definitely is places for that, but I do see an increase in others. In the brick and mortar space, I will say this: I'm seeing more specialized. They're very more of a specialized, more of a the riches in the niches kind of thing. So I do see that, but Megan, I hope that answered the question. If not, you can either, if you want to delineate it more, tell me. If not, you can give me a call.
It did great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for joining us, Megan. Hey, everybody out there, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. Ray, look and see if there are any more questions while I wrap up here.
Gotcha.
Again, you can go to hireyourbestboss.com and watch videos. We have a roadmap series that will take you through what a full franchise investigation looks like. You can schedule one-on-one calls with us, and we will get on the phone and answer your specific questions. We will introduce you to funding and finance companies that specialize in franchising. We have books. We have workbooks. We have a ton of resources. And we have the joy to work with people that want to explore small business ownership. So it's not work for us. It's a labor of love because we want you to enjoy the life that we have as small business owners. And it's been a great life for both of us, and we want to change your trajectory and see if it can be a great life for you. So, Ray, any final comments?
Sure. We get to do this, and thank you. We get to work with you. We get to help people on their journey, and we look at this as a journey, and we get to be a small part of it, and that makes all the difference. So thanks very much for attending. Thanks when you talk to us about these different aspects of business. It's actually fun for us, and hopefully you feel that too after you've worked with us a bit.
Exactly. All right, everybody. Thanks for being here. Ray, thank you.
Thanks, Tara. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, Megan. Bye, guys.